So to be a swimmer again, that's all well and good, but as you can imagine, there's a few obstacles in the way. Right, and the first one, I'll give you an idea on the first one and tell you a little bit about the first time I took a bath after this happened. Right, I get the bath board out, I transfer out of the chair onto the bath board, I lower myself down into the tub. What's the first thing that happens when you sit down in the tub? You slide, eventually, but not first. First thing that happens, well, if you're me anyway, it's too hot. I think after 42 years I'd have figured out what temperature I like the bath, but no. That's the first thing. But no, really the first thing that happens when you sit down in water, you displace the water. It's like when you throw a pebble into a pond, you displace the water, and as I sat down in that tub, a ripple went out. A little half-inch wave of water went out from me, hit the other end of the tub, turned around, came straight back at me, knocked me straight over. Oh, I grab onto the side of the tub and sit back up. I'm coughing and spluttering, and there's only one thing going through my head. It's, you have got to be kidding. You want to be a swimmer again, and you just got knocked over by a half-inch wave of water. Boy, have you got some work to do. Right, so I started working on my balance, and eventually got into a swimming pool and started swimming laps. An Olympic-sized pool. I got to the point where I'm swimming 1 kilometre. And it was around about that time that the little light bulb went off in my head, and I had this idea. 10 years before, I'd swum in a race, an ocean race, in a small town called Lorne, about 3 hours outside of Melbourne. It's a 1.2 kilometre ocean swim called the Pier, as in jetty, to pub, as in pub. Now, we're not stupid down there. How many people do you think would sign up to do a race called the Pub to Pier? Not many. Probably none. Pier to pub, thousands. Tens of thousands want to swim in this race every day. There's so many. In my age group alone, there's 732. 732 guys that are going to swim this race. So we get down there. I take some friends down there, and it gets time for my heat to swim this race. And we head down the boat ramp beside the pier, and we've all got in the water, and I'm at the back. I've jumped out of my chair, and I'm sitting in the shallow water. I've just pulled that funny swimming cap on, snapped my goggles into place, and bang, the starter pistol goes off. 732 thrashing maniacs. I'll tell you what it was like. It was like being in a washing machine. It was like being in a washing machine with 731 other guys. I'm getting kicked in the face, I'm getting my goggles clawed off, and I get kicked in the face again. I'm really unhappy about the kicked in the face thing, because I can't kick anybody back. Obviously, still got a problem with that. But we're all basically, what we want is we all want some space. All right, and so eventually the field spreads out a bit, and I've got some space, and I get to do what I've gone there to do. Just focus on being a swimmer. Right, that's all I'm interested in. When I'm in the water, people can't tell that I haven't got any legs. Right, except maybe the guy that just kicked me in the face, and then I overtook him, and he's thinking, I'm sure that's the guy that just overtook me. I wonder why he didn't kick me in the face. Maybe that guy is thinking about it, but apart from that, nobody knows. So I get to just swim. For 20 minutes, I do just that. The water, we get to the beach at the other end, at the front of the pub. The water gets shallow, and people are starting to stand up and doing that funny run with your legs out to the side that you do in shallow water. And they run up the beach to the finish line that's marked by 2 flagpoles about 30 feet apart, about 10 metres apart. And lining the beach, there's probably 10,000 people watching the finish of this race. I get to the shallow water, I claw my way up till I get onto the sand, shuffle up onto my backside, and start scooting up the beach on my butt towards the finish line. And I'll tell you what, out of the 10,000 people watching that race, the end of that race that day, at the front, there were all the young kids who'd pushed their way to the front so that they could see. And I'll tell you now, I will never ever forget the looks on the faces of those young kids as I shuffled my way up the beach that day, because I'll guarantee you, some of them have never swum in the ocean since. And now I'm not a... Now, I'm not usually a mean guy. I'm not usually a bad guy, but I've got to admit, it crossed my mind to hold onto my legs and roll around in the sand, screaming out shark. Right, but I didn't have to. Right, they were freaked. They were absolutely freaked. Now, they weren't the only ones that were freaked. I think everybody on the beach that day was a little bit freaked, because they realised something that I didn't at that point, was that out of the 732 guys that had started that race, I came in number 473. I left 259 people behind me to have a think about the fact they'd just been beaten by a guy with no legs. Gave them something to think about. Now, the way I was able to do that, I'm telling you, I wasn't interested in being the guy with no legs in that race. Right? What I focused on was being a swimmer. You know how people will often say what you see is what you get? Right, that doesn't cut it for me. The big lesson for me that day is it's how you see is what you get. All right, it's how you see that determines your reality. It's how you see that determines your results. And at the end of the day, if you can change the way you see the world, you can literally change the world. And my world changed again on that day. Because I'll tell you, the thing that really blew me away and freaked me out when I realised it afterwards is that I swam that race that day faster than I had 10 years earlier with 2 legs. Pretty amazing what you can do when you set your mind to it. Now, I know what you swimmers out there are thinking. Boy, you must have had a terrible kick.